Good morning, December 2nd, 2022. So, I want to get back here to speak about several topics that are very important during the month of December, but also the ones that will make us move forward to the year 2023, another one that will be make or break in these daunting circumstances. We shall start with the Russian Ukrainian conflict and starting with the context of the escalation. As we know, we are doing our best behind the scenes because this event is a powder keg, like I say, that could lead to something worse that nobody wants, which is technically World War III and the nuclear war. But without getting back onto the sterilizing factors of the topic, I want to reflect on the failure of the West, failure to lead in this context of action. But this will invoke us also the Vision 2050 of both the People's Republic of China related to the Silk Road and one of the Russian Federation leading to re-establish the old Orthodox power. Many other things to discuss in this context of action, including Crimea and the question that we ask ourselves behind the scenes as well, where is neo Nazism in all this? So, I want to start back by speaking about the difference between war crimes and aggression crimes, which basically the second one, lead to all crimes related to a war like this. So this was not wanted by the United States and the USSR after World War II, which means the recognition of aggression crimes was basically signed but not ratified by both countries. So that included the United States on one side and the USSR, that included Russia and Ukraine at that time. If the ICC cannot handle situations like this leads to the creation of special tribunals alternative in order to follow up with the different context of actions that are related to what occurred as consequence from these conflicts. As we know, the conflict is ongoing since the 2014 and the issue of Crimea, and it has turned to a ravaging war almost 10 months ago. So, concerned also about the presence of the Russian Federation in Mali and the Central African Republic from a counterterrorism perspective. I want to get back to that furthermore behind the scenes as well. The issue of winter and the hellish conditions that it could bring to the Ukrainian population, including not having power in this context. Now, there is also the NPPs. This is a very important topic, not just Zaporizhia and Chernobyl, but many others. Following up here with the work of the IAEA and the representatives of the IAEA in place in the war zone. This will lead us, of course, to the topic of escalation, furthermore, moving from the direct confrontation that I will follow up as well from the perspective of battle developments and as well as airstrike. The battle developments are usually focused on the southeastern part of Ukraine. We've been following up with the battles of Kherson and Bakhmut, but like I said, those are just battles in a war. It's like speaking about Stalingrad and Kursk during World War II, or Verdun and the Marne during World War One. But like I said, no comparison with the world wars because this really sterilizes the debate and breaks the synthesis of diplomacy and counterterrorism, and I will leave it for journalists for that matter. So, from the perspective of escalation, like I said, internally within the direct confrontation, we have the issue of the NPPs as a powder keg. And like I said, I will follow up with the crew of Mr. Grossi that is in Ukraine. as well as the other issue that has led NATO to mobilize near the borders of Russia and Ukraine, the borders of its member states, following what happened in Poland. That will lead us to speak furthermore also after the video about the role of NATO in this context of action, many other country groupings as well. Between brackets, since I'm speaking about conditions that could lead to World War III, we should not forget that outside of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, there is as well the tension over Chinese Taipei related to the issue that is in China. So we're still working and very glad that the efforts with Russia are leading through, for example, helping Africa with fertilizers. Many countries need the help of both Russia and Ukraine indeed. From the perspective of the UNGA, I'm working this week on reviewing the suggested reforms regarding the United Nations Security Council and its way of work. Like I said, the veto power have really framed this context related to the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and in my opinion, there are so many things to do right now to save the importance of the Security Council as a body of the United Nations. And we're gonna resume, like I said, in January with the presidency of the Empire of Japan. From the perspective of the counterterrorism, I was focusing from the level of the UNOCT on the issue related to terrorist attacks on the basis of xenophobia, racism, and other forms of intolerance, or at the behest, like I said, of religion or belief. I heard in this context of action from many participants, including Miguel Angel Moratinos. From the seated technical perspective, looking forward to the presentation of the proceedings and outcomes of the CTC's special meeting on countering the use of new and emerging technologies for terrorist weapons, and also focusing from the National Focal Points Regional Forum held this week in Dakar, Senegal, and it is involving the UNEOC, the UNOCT, UNICRI, and the ICSS. So this all leads us to speak about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict in the context of action that I'm mentioning the United Nations from the General Assembly and Security Council perspective. I mentioned NATO. There are also other country groupings that failed to play a role of arbitration between quotes in this conflict. If we look at it from the United States perspective, and getting back here later on to speak about the social media while I'm using Twitter for everything, I'll be using Truth Social and Getter to speak furthermore about US governance topics as well, while Twitter is for everything, including that, and not limited to that, and focusing on the governance related to counterterrorism and business. And from the perspective of counterterrorism, looking back to the CIA operation, in other words, human resources, long story short, when it comes to recruiting and the fact that it's open to recruit Russians as well. Getting back also to the perspective of other agencies in this context of action, such as the FBI and the NSA. So in this war, just while speaking from national perspective, there is also the perspective of Europe as a whole, from the pan-European perspective, but also the one of the European Union, that is technically not giving any advancement to this situation, as it is always shielding behind NATO on the perspective of protecting Ukraine. All Europe is in a delicate situation right now, and this is going to be a very daunting winter that we are following hour by the hour. So there is a perspective of the United States by itself as a country outside of the context of NATO, and the one of Europe from the perspective of the pan-Europeanism sense, and as well as from the one of the country groupings that is the European Union. So to get back to the United States, there is also, besides the CIA and the FBI, the NSA, the approach of the US Army in the context of the Russian-Ukrainian conflicts. Since I spoke about governance, invoking here the role of elections that I have already been deliberating on past videos, and how we're gonna deal with that, and beyond 2022 and Georgia, and seeing how the architecture is going to appear for the 2024 presidential election, as well as the following race for Senate and Congress 2 years from now. The issues are always the same as I have mentioned, and it is about developing direct democracy. From state perspective, focusing on the governance in New York and New Jersey, and from the local perspective in New York City. Of course, open to other perspectives as well as every level. But like I said, we're following up by the loop every context of action, slowly but surely. Getting back to the politics now of the People's Republic of China, and beside the issue of Chinese Taipei, there are also the things that are related to the COVID-19 protests. This will lead us, of course, to go back to the modern bacteriological war that I could have started the video with, because it's basically the issues that started from 2019 to present, especially with the and majoritarily because of COVID-19. And we all know that the world has plunged onto all these issues through that situation. There was a bottom line that was already broken, the one of separation of social classes that we are living in world apart, and there was, after what happened with COVID, and like I mentioned in a historic tweet that I have put on November the 6th, 2020, is that we trivialize not only that kind of hypocrisy, but we move to another level, the one of trivializing deaths, clear and simple, with this pandemic. And all that resulted on day-to-day lives, and that's why we got to this point. All what you see around the world, from conflicts to issues, things that are related to socioeconomic chaos, is interdependent with what the pandemic has brought. Not to say that it's the pandemic who brought this, because sooner or later, within the state of the world in October 2019, it would have been growing up tension-wise. The tension would have been growing up little by little. So now the only weapon we have is to fight back in order to build better. But like I said, the 2020s is realistically a very daunting decade in this context of action. Besides the modern bacteriological war that I invoke is creating chaos in China, and noticing between brackets as well the increase of the COVID cases, not only in the United States but also in France. We have the issues of climate change. What have we learned from COP27? Following up with the efforts of the Mohammed VI Foundation for the Environment, that is chaired by Her Royal Highness Princess Al Hasna, and I commend the efforts of the work of the Kingdom of Morocco in this context of action. The global food crisis confirmed and expanding in 2023, as I mentioned on the past video. And of course, the problem of inflation that is basically leading to put more oil on fire on this socio-economic chaos that started in 2020 and still ongoing presently. So we're gonna get back furthermore to speak about the diplomacy aspect in this context of action. I like the fact that Emmanuel Macron spoke about the limits of US protectionism before beginning his visit in the United States. That was my remark in this context of action. So looking forward to many things in this context, and I think we have time to discuss a lot of it before the new year. Like I said, the big challenge again. Wearing technologies, decisions that I have made, and I don't expect to make an update within maybe 1 or 2 years. I don't care how technology develops. I care about my roadmap, and that's what facilitates to me the aspect of dealing with social media. So, from the perspective, the phone is always the main characteristic, as I consider it also as a desktop. I use it mostly for camera to make my short videos and also to have my contacts on it. It's important for calls and also for WhatsApp, long story short. Gmail is enough for the emails. There are also the options of chats and hangouts. No need for Yahoo and Outlook in this situation. Among the defunct sites that are also related to Google, I can add Google Plus. There are numerous of websites of social media that I will not mention on the following, but most of them that I do not mention or that I'm not in are always mentioned to you through Google if you want to sign into them and therefore become having an account in them. But like I said, we cannot be everywhere. YouTube, that is linked also to the Google package if you want, is for long videos, as you know. I am inactive on Dailymotion, another site for videos, and SoundCloud, another site for audios, just because I have YouTube. So I have those accounts, but I have not logged in on them for ages. Zoom is always a practical way for conferences, video conferences, and Eventbrite is a way to organize your meetings. No need for Spotify neither. I am on Twitter, as I have mentioned, for general debates and every topic that is related not only to the United Nations and counterterrorism, but also to the United States. And specifically for the United States governance, I'm in Truth Social as well as Getter. No points of having a Telegram, TikTok, and Snapchat because, like I said, I use my phone as an office phone. I already have enough apps on it, the one that I have mentioned, like WhatsApp, you see. Mastodon, we're working on that. And then Instagram, Facebook, and Messenger. Tumblr I do have, but I don't log in on it forever. I am also on MySpace, Cameo, and Flickr, but like I said, those are ones that you use once in a blue moon personally. No need for Pinterest. I know what Pinterest is, but I really don't have any need of using it. So very important to look on all that when you logging in, not just for your image, but also from the security perspective, because you want also to keep a same style in this context of action. Finally, just to finish up, it's a very hectic day and I love soccer, and I am happy that there is a great World Cup in Qatar right now, in the Arab world, that is helping to bring basically tolerance and hope for the future throughout sports. I'm a big fan of sports myself, as I used to be a young amateur soccer player, and fan of the statistics of the FIFA World Cup. To see the group stage that is ending today, and I get back to mention some magnificent records of the FIFA World Cup when we're speaking about, first of all, the rankings of the teams, and it is very different ways to do this ranking. When you look at the tournament as a whole from its beginning 1930 to present, there is the rankings of the finals participations that comes right after the qualifiers, and that's what everybody looks at is the finals. I mean, it's gonna be expanding. It was the top 16 from 1930 to 1978, except in 1930 with 13 teams, 1938 with 15, because as Austria was annexed by Germany, therefore their players were playing with Germany at the time, and 1950 with 13 teams. Then a top 24 from 1982 to 1994, a top 32 from 1998 to 2022, and the top 48 starting 2026. The expansions comes as a way to make this popular sport that is soccer bigger, because the UEFA Champions League will expand as well. And the FIFA Women's World Cup is expanding to 32. The Under 20 World Cup has already 24. The Under 17 World Cup have already 24. And also from the continental perspective, the UEFA Euro have 24 teams plus a Nations League that allows all the teams to play in 4 divisions. In the CONCACAF, it has been created as well that allows all the teams to play in 3 divisions, which means you globalize furthermore, not just at the world level of the World Cup, but also at the continental level, the chances for the teams to play. It has been done also in the CAF region by moving to a 24-team continental tournament, as well as in the AFC with moving to 24 teams. It's very hard in South America because they have only 10 teams, and they tend to invite 2 to 6 teams to make Copa America bigger. It depends on the to be confirmed decisions for the 2024 tournament. But to get back to the topic that is the World Cup, very excited tournament in Qatar, and indulge my sin of me speaking about soccer here. So the top 48 is something that would be spoken about starting 2026. I don't see why to invoke the top 32 right now. Automatically it's the finals. It's the next stage after the finals, so no need to elaborate. Of course there will be a last 32 round that will be created, so the top 32 would have consisted on a group stage from 1998 to 2022, and the top 32 will be basically a last 32 round proper starting 2026. A top 24, again, a group stage from 1982 to 1994, better just to incorporate it within the stats of the number of participations per team. Then after that, the second ranking after qualifying to the finals is being in the top 16. Again, the top 16 could be just being there, round 1 on group stage between 1930 and 1978, and then being on the round 2 and the top 4 eliminated of the group stage on 1982. Again, I'm not doing a top 12 because it's just for the situation of the 1982 World Cup, so we incorporate it on the top 16 ranking, and a top 16 consisted on a last 16 round proper participation from 1986 to present. Now the second round, we really speak here after speaking about the finals and the top 16, that includes also group stage level or round 1 level. The second round proper has been semi-finals in 1930 and 1950. Well, in 1950 was basically a final tournament with 4 teams in a round robin. It has been quarterfinals in 1934, 1938, then from 1954 to 1978, except in 1974 and 1978, with the second group stage, 4 teams per group, a top 8. So the second round has been a last 16 round proper from 1986 to 2022, and it will become last 32 star in 2026. So now those are the most important records track when we speak about the top 16. Is the one of Brazil that have been 22 times out of 22 in the top 16 from 1930 to present. Then followed by Germany, 16 from 1954 to 2014. Then Italy with 12 from 1962 to 2006. Then you have Argentina and Mexico, respectively, from 1974 to 1998, and for Mexico from 1994 to 2022. Again, there is a lot of 6 times track in many contexts, but since it's active, the second active one after Brazil right now is the one of Argentina, who has been in the top 16 from 2006 to present. Then if you want to speak about the track appearances in the second round proper, the record of Germany, which is from 1954 to 2014, which is 16 times, followed by the active one of Brazil, 14 times from 1970 to present. Then 8 times Italy from 1978 to 2006. Argentina 7 times 1974 to 1998, as well as Mexico 7 times from 1994 to 2022. Then the active one, the second one after Brazil, is Argentina 5 times from 2006 to present. So I'm focusing a lot on the counterterrorism perspective, and I have met a lot of footballers in the past, and it's great to have in this 2022-2023 cycle 2 FIFA World Cup, the one that is ongoing in Qatar and the one of women in the summer in Australia and New Zealand, that will be also another opportunity to strengthen the endeavors of sport security.